guys, let's take a look at our notes for angle relationships. Okay, and here's something important to understand if you're using the note system that I created for you. Make sure that it says at the top of the paper, angle relationships, okay? Because it's easy to turn upside down. So that's our learning intent today, is to get some notes about angle relationships. Let's move me down in the corner here, okay? So we're going to start with something you probably already know. So grab your highlighter and I want you to highlight real carefully. Ooh, not like that. Let's make this a little bit smaller, okay? And let's choose green, right? These two lines that I made them green, right? So you're going to take your highlighter and you're going to trace these two lines right here. Let's go back a little bit, fix my mistake. So this line and this line right here, okay? Those two lines never ever intersect, and they are called parallel lines, okay? Let's spell it. It's important to know how to spell these terms, so let's spell it correctly. Parallel lines never intersect, okay? So that's our first term, and then you can come back with your green highlighter tool and at your table and also highlight in green parallel lines, because that's what these little guys here, I'm actually going to add just some arrows to help me understand that it's this line here and this line here. Those are the ones that are parallel. You usually see, and with your pencil you can also add these little arrows here. When lines are parallel, they have that little symbol on them to indicate that those, even if they look, sometimes they just look really, really close and they're not quite parallel. Those are indeed parallel lines. That's how we know. Okay, so next we need to talk about perpendicular lines. And you may have an orange highlighter at your table. You may have a yellow highlighter at your table. But let's use, I'm going to use orange because it stands out a little bit better in the video. So we're going to highlight this line right here on our notes. If you're at home and you've got an orange crayon or an orange marker, but it's okay if you don't use color. If you just use pencil and paper, that'll be fine too. So highlight that line for me in orange or yellow or just a different color. And then we're going to put this little symbol here, okay? When you see that little symbol, that means it's a right angle, correct? So these are called, these two lines, our orange line and our blue line, are called perpendicular lines. Perpendicular, and I will help you spell it. Perpendicular lines. And they intersect at a 90-degree or a right angle. You can write down whichever one. If you know that a 90-degree angle is a right angle, that's totally fine with me. Then I'm going to grab my highlighter and I'm going to go back and I am going to highlight perpendicular lines, also in orange, so that it's all matchy-matchy. Make our notes nice and neat and pretty. Okay, so we've got some parallel lines, we've got some perpendicular lines, and one of the lines that's perpendicular is this blue line, and it has a special name too. So with your highlighter, trace this line in blue, okay? And then we're going to come back and give it a name, okay? So this line right here is called a transversal, Okay, so that's our third term. Number 3, a transversal. Okay, and I'm kind of running out of room. I'll put intersects at least two lines. Okay, sometimes those lines are parallel. Okay, not always. But if those lines are parallel, some really cool stuff happens. We're going to talk about that in a minute. I'm going to come back with my highlighter and highlight the word transversal. And then maybe I'll add, with my pencil, I'll add an arrow pointing to this line here so that I remember that that blue line is the transversal. Are you with me? Okay, now for my favorite one. All right, my favorite one. Ooh, let's label our angles. Let's give our angles names so it's easier for me to tell you which one I'm talking about. I'm going to call this one number 1. I'm going to call this one number 2. I'm going to call this one angle 3, this one angle 4, this one angle 5, this one angle 6, this one angle 7, and this one angle 8. Okay, so let's talk about angles that are in matching corners. Okay, how about blue? Let's use blue, the blue highlighting tool. I'm going to highlight this angle right here and this angle right here. Angle 2 and angle 6. Okay, do you see, and I'm going to actually write it in red, but with your pencil is fine. Do you see how relative to the transversal, relative to that blue line, both of these angles are kind of down and to the right, okay? But relative to the parallel line, the green lines, okay, both of those angles are above. So they're in matching corners. When angles are in matching corners, they correspond, okay? So angle 2,
Farnito, the front office.
Angle 2 and angle 6, that little symbol that looks like this, or rather like this, means angle. Angle 2 and angle 6 are called corresponding angles. Corresponding angles. And those angles are congruent. Always, 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 meaning they measure exactly the same. I'm going to put a little note down here that they're congruent. Congruent. Miss Rowe can't spell. I'm expecting you guys to spell, and my spelling's terrible. Okay. Now, just to highlight that I'm talking about those corresponding angles, I'm going to go back with blue and highlight corresponding angles. And I've got that kind of is matchy-matchy. Maybe I'll even come back with my pencil and note, right, that this angle here, okay, and this angle here, angles 2 and 6, those are my corresponding angles. They're in matching corners. We can add that too if you want to your list. Matching corners. Are you with me? Okay, one more term we're going to cover, and that's vertical angles. Vertical angles are also congruent. Okay, let's use orange. Now, vertical angles are right across from each other when lines intersect. Okay, oh, I said I was going to use orange. Let's use orange right here. Okay, so I'm going to make a little note about vertical angles. So we have 1, 2, 3. Oh, I didn't number this one. This was term number 4. I'll put a little 4 there and circle it. Term number 5 is vertical angles. Vertical angles are across from each other when lines intersect. So let's say that angle 2 and angle 3 are vertical angles. They're across from each other, and they also are congruent. Always, always, always. So there are other pairs of vertical angles here as well, but this is just one example. I'm going to go ahead and highlight that term so that you have it as well. Vertical angles, I should have written such as vertical angle. Vertical angles are congruent. Okay, are there other pairs of vertical angles that you guys can find? Think about it for a sec. What about angles 1 and 4? 7 and 6, 5 and 8. You see how those are across from each other? Those are also vertical angles. And I will give you some more notes in the second part of this video.